Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, hello everyone. Matt Dichter from Bullhorn here. Thanks for joining today. So I manage the relationship with Nick Turner and the SRA group of companies. We're excited to have you on today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. So first, everyone is on mute during the primary portion of the meeting. You can enter questions in the question pane on the right-hand side of the GoToMeeting. We will try our best to cover all questions at the end of the meeting. In case we do not get to yours, we'll follow up with each individual. And also today's webinar will be recorded, so you will receive a copy of the meeting after. Today's call should go about 45 minutes, and then we will have some time for questions at the end. Just so you know, while I do maintain the relationship with Nick at the corporate level, you all will be working with individual Bullhorn reps to navigate whether a partnership for your office makes sense. Today, Rob on our inside sales team will be leading the actual core Bullhorn presentation, beginning with a brief company PowerPoint overview of Bullhorn, followed by a full live product demo. Emily and our product marketing team will be wrapping up with answers to your individual questions from the show. And with that, take it away, Rob.
Thanks, Matt. Yep, like Matt said, my name is Rob Gogan. I work over on our inside sales team throughout here in Boston. Really appreciate everyone taking the time today to walk through Bullhorn and learn a little bit more about the system. And to kick things off, there are a few quick slides I do want to go through. And the first just provides a little bit of background on Bullhorn and who we are. Bullhorn's been around for about 20 years now, and since day one, we've been founded to work with firms of all shapes and sizes in the staffing and recruiting industry. You may recognize some of these logos up here on your left, but we do work with also teams from 1 user to up to 1,000 users. 76% of our customers do start with less than 10 recruiters on Bullhorn. So whether you're in that space now and you want to grow or stay right where you are, Bullhorn is going to be able to work with you. On top of that, we're putting $25 million a year back into the product. We're constantly coming out with new updates that's being rolled out to you on a periodic basis. On top of that, we're constantly hiring on the support team, sales team, across all verticals of the business. The next thing here I want to get into is on the far right, actually, and that's our support team here at Bullhorn. Like I mentioned, I'm based out of our headquarters here in Boston, but we also have an office in St. Louis, in Vancouver, down in Florida, and then overseas in London, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, as well as Sydney, Australia. So at any time, you are able to call into Bullhorn and get a live support rep. And I do want to emphasize this is always an in-house Bullhorn support employee. On top of that, if you didn't feel like picking up the phone, maybe it's early in the morning, we also have a 24/7 support chat, just like you see on eBay or Amazon. You're always able to chat right into support if you do have a technical question. And then you will have a dedicated account manager for your team. So someone who's familiar with your business, knows who your team are, knows what the team's looking to do. And then here in the middle, no matter what avenue you want to take in terms of getting set up on Bullhorn, you will be given a dedicated implementation consultant. Now, towards the end, I'll walk through a few different options that we have for this. And then finally, we have the Bullhorn Learning Hub. This is a great resource for teams just to make sure as soon as you do hit the ground, your first day on Bullhorn, you do hit the ground running. What this is an interactive help center, whether it's videos, you can ask phrases. It's going to provide you with articles or those videos on whatever you're hoping to accomplish in Bullhorn. Also within this, you're able to log support tickets. So whether you're activating a new marketplace partner or you just want to have something followed up with in a few days, that's right where you're going to be able to do this in the Bullhorn Learning Hub. And for today, this is what we're going to be covering within the Bullhorn CRM and ATS. On the client side, all the companies that you work with or want to work with, as well as all the contacts at those companies. And then on the recruiting side, jobs, candidates, submissions, and placements, as well as a few additional things I'll be sure to cover in today's webinar. And then finally, the last slide before we hop in, Bullhorn is a fully mobile optimized solution. We do have a mobile app available to you right within the App Store. So anywhere you have internet access, whether you're on a smartphone, a laptop, in a Starbucks, or out of the office, or just working from home, you will be able to access Bullhorn at any time. So for today, I'm not going to be demoing the app, but that is available now within the App Store. And cool, now what everyone's waiting for, I'm just gonna hop right in. And like Matt had said, we do have that question center that Emily is monitoring on our team. So please feel free to ask questions at any time and we'll be sure to get to them at the end. Where I'm gonna start off today is in the top left of Bullhorn, right within the main menu. Now, when I open this up, these are those entities that I had just mentioned. And these do all drive you to not just individual records, but the list views within Bullhorn, whether it's jobs, candidates, companies, client contacts. Now, this main menu panel here, we designed this to replicate an iPhone or a smartphone. So you're able to move these icons around. You can rename any of these icons. If you wanted to call jobs searches, you want to call placements hires, companies, partners, any sort of terminology that you use, you are able to rename these entities. On top of that, you can also add and remove any of these icons. If you had someone on your team who wasn't focused on one of these options, they are able to add and remove that from their main menu. And again, these do drive you to all of the list views within Bullhorn, as well as a personalized dashboard. Now, right above our main menu, we have the Fast Find and Fast Add. Fast Find, this is where we can look up any records in the system, whether it's searching by a number, by an email, we want to look up a company, a certain job. The Fast Find is where we can look up any records within the system. And this same functionality is going to be available on that app as well. So I'm on the road, I'm going to look up a client I'm visiting. That's right where we're going to be able to do that. Next to the Fast Find, we have the Fast Add. So we do need to add data right into the system. I can add a note, add a task, add a new company in. And again, that's whether I'm in the office, working from home, or on the road. And the final thing here in terms of some of the general navigation on the far right is this help button. Now, this is that help center that I had mentioned in that initial slide. So anyone who does have access to Bullhorn, all of your users will have access right to this help center. Someone needs to look up, hey, how do I add a task? How do I do anything? This is where they're going to be able to do that. On top of that, this is also where our monthly webinars are held. So if you ever did want to sign up for a webinar, you're able to go right into here and see what's upcoming, whether it's product update or a webinar. Cool. And the first area that I did want to start for today's demo is where we see a lot of teams starting their day as soon as they log into Bullhorn. Now, right here in our main menu, we have this dashboard. And this is what we're looking at here on the screen. These dashboard cards are some of the activity that you're keeping track of on a day-to-day basis. Now, one card that I have showing front and center is jobs without coverage. And I think this is a great place for recruiters and teams to start their day. What this is showing me right here is jobs that I have without interviews. But each of these cards you're able to go in and configure, whether it's by user, by date, for this one, by a certain type of coverage. So I can see jobs that don't have any internal submissions, jobs that don't have client submissions yet. And again, you are able to tweak these and configure them to best match whatever you want to see in that moment. Now, this is just two cards that I'm showing here, the jobs out coverage and jobs of age, but we do have over 30 cards out of the box that come with Bullhorn for all parts of your business. You also see in the back that these are all highlighted blue. All of these records in Bullhorn are hyperlinked. So if I did want to jump into a specific job or the jobs list, I just have to click one of these records and it's going to drive me right into the first list view I'm going to walk through today. That is the jobs list. Now, each list view within Bullhorn does look the exact same. So right here, I'm in my jobs list and I have it set up so I'm looking at the job title, status, contact, and client company. Each list view within Bullhorn, you're going to be able to configure just like the main menu. And this personalization is going to be a theme that I'm going to keep saying today, so I apologize for being repetitive, but it is something I do want to make sure that I mention. So for all of your list views, we can move the columns around however we want them to look and feel. And we can also even add any fields that we want to see front and center. So again, this is how I have my instance of Bullhorn set up, but each end user is going to pick and choose what the layout of their system looks like. Just like those dashboard cards, each of these entities is hyperlinked. So I can see here, I have a VP of Finance role with client Braco that has 18 people shortlisted. I can hop right into this job. This job list view is also going to give me a complete overview of everything that's going on for roles that I have. If I did want to hop into this VP of Finance role, this is what an individual job record looks like within the system. So again, we have a VP of Finance with client Bright Cove. This is our out-of-the-box job workflow, but just like the list view in the main menu, you can configure this. So you can rename these steps. If you want to call internal submissions shortlists, you want to call client submission sendouts, you can rename steps, you can add steps, you can take away steps. It's completely up to your team. And the first thing I want to go through on this is, what do we do when we first get a new search? Now with Bullhorn, you can search internally, and we are also able to post the role out. Now we integrate with a variety of job boards, Monster, Career Builder, Indeed, and we also will integrate with your website. If I want to post out a role, all I have to do is go to Actions and then Publish, and then it'll bring us right to our job publishing screen where we can pick and choose where this job is going to go out to. On top of that, within Bullhorn, we also have an internal job description and an external job description, just in case there's something our client gives us that we don't want to post out there. We're able to tweak that, so we're just making sure we post out that published version. And I did want to walk through quickly what a live career portal looks like. So right here, this is a client of ours, Lambert Nemec Group, and you can see here all these jobs came from within Bullhorn. You can sort them by location. They're mainly focused in Winnipeg, but you have multiple locations, multiple categories. And again, these job descriptions came from within Bullhorn. If I click on this CFO role, candidates are able to apply right away. And our application process is very straightforward. First name, last name, email, phone number, resume. Let's get you right into the system, parsed in and attached to that job. And again, those candidates are going to flow right into Bullhorn automatically, as well as someone on your team will get email notified that people are applying. So that's how you're able to externally get fresh candidates for a new job once you bring it into Bullhorn. But on top of that, you're also going to be doing some sourcing. And the first area I want to start with that is LinkedIn. So if a team wasn't posting a job, that's no problem. Let's find different ways to get candidates in. Now, Bullhorn does have an official marketplace partnership with LinkedIn, which we'd be happy to provide some more information on after. A few of the key highlights are there. We integrate with LinkedIn Recruiter Professional as well, corporate. Again, that's an official marketplace partnership where people who have those licenses will have their emails kept track of when they're sending them from within LinkedIn, their notes kept track of. On top of that, it's a two-way sync, and what I'll get to in a little bit is how when you're actually on a candidate's record, you'll be able to open up a profile into their window into their LinkedIn profile. But for today, this is Brian Sylvester. He's actually the CFO here at Bullhorn, and no matter what type of LinkedIn license, you're going to be able to perform this drag and drop and get him into Bullhorn. To do that, all I have to do is save Brian's profile as a PDF, and then when I toggle back on over to Bullhorn, drag and drop Brian right into the system to create a new candidate. Now we can see we have Brian Sylvester. He's the CFO. I'm the owner of this candidate. His email parsed over since it's the first connection. And then if I keep scrolling down, it's also going to pull out the skills off of his LinkedIn profile in this case. Now, if Brian was already existing within Bullhorn, you'd be able to see that in LinkedIn if you have LinkedIn Recruiter. And if not, it's going to run a duplicate check based off his name and email. So if you need to update a record, you'd also be able to do that. A few things I want to highlight here now that I'm actually on the creation of a candidate record are these fields are just the fields that I have set up. Each team can pick and choose what fields are showing and what fields are required. On top of that, you're also able to create custom fields. One I had created for a client previously was this magic ball field right here. This was an exec search firm in California. This was their miscellaneous field. Anything of note that they wanted to add into Bullhorn, this is what they put underneath that field. Brentwood School was something they'd like to highlight here, whether the person liked dogs. So again, this is how through LinkedIn we can get candidates quickly and easily right into Bullhorn and set up new profiles. On top of that, Bullhorn is also going to integrate with your email. You're going to have automatic email tracking, but you can also actually parse in candidates directly from within your email, whether it's Office 365 or G Suite. If I toggle over to my demo account email, which as you can see is in Office 365, and G Suite's going to work the exact same way, we're going to also see this Bullhorn email widget right here. Now, what this does is when I open this up, it opens up a frame right or a view right into Bullhorn. We can see James Richard is an existing candidate. He's green, just like in our main menu. If he was not existing, it would be the same sort of grayish hue that the rest of the screen is. But from here, we can see James. This is an active candidate. I can take action right from within my email, adding a note, adding a task. I can even see notes I have internally within Bullhorn right within my email. So I can see Will Burgess had emailed James a few weeks ago. But if I did want to get James in the system, James is a referral who one of my friends gave me, mentioned that he, was looking for a new role. With 2 clicks, by just clicking the attachment, I can bring James right into Bullhorn as a new candidate, as an existing candidate. Bullhorn's able to parse in any Word docs or PDFs. On top of that, you can even attach James to a certain role right from within your email. So if I knew I was running a search right now that I thought James might be a good fit for, I can not just parse him in, I can also attach James to that role right from within my email. And again, we work with Office 365 and G Suite for this email integration. Now we have these candidates in the system, I do want to walk through what a candidate record is actually going to look like within Bullhorn. In this instance, I want to look at Kevin Clark. He is a CTO at Verizon. Now, in Kevin's candidate profile view, we have a workflow for the candidate, which just like the job can be configured. You can add steps, take away steps, rename steps. We allow you a huge amount of flexibility on these candidate records, though, through the information showing front and center. You get to pick and choose what fields you can see right here in this main overview, as well as through these overview cards. So in my instance, I like to have the resume text and recent notes showing front and center. If you want to have a details card filled with any and all information, you can have that showing front and center, but it's moving it right over. And this works for those custom fields as well. So if there was data, maybe it wasn't a resume text you want to see when you first look up a candidate record, you want to see his desired salary, desired locations, that's no problem. We can put that card showing front and center. And the goal here is really, we don't want to have you click into the edit tab every single time you look up a candidate. It's going to waste a ton of time having to do this. So this allows you to see whatever data you do want to see right away. Now, we also have this actions bar here, and this is where we can email out of Bullhorn right away. We can add notes, add tasks, add appointments, add Kevin to a tear sheet. Tear sheets, recruiting lists, hot lists. It's a way to segment candidates from your main candidate pool, as well as shortlist Kevin for a role by adding a submission, sending Kevin directly to a client. And we can even create branded resumes right within Bullhorn with your logo attached and some of the information automatically blanked out. When we do send emails out of Bullhorn, this is that second part of that email integration, is you're going to have automatic email tracking. We sync up with your business email. So whatever your team's emails are, that will be your Bullhorn login that you send emails out of. And when you sync up your email, all emails to and from existing candidates, contacts, companies are going to be automatically tracked passively in the background. For candidates, it's going to be right here in this emails tab. When I go into this tab, I'm going to be able to see, okay, what are some of the inbound and outbound emails that I've been receiving or sending to Kevin? I can see my colleague Dom Herbert had sent Kevin an email a while back, as well as my colleague Will Burgess. Through this binocular view, I'll even be able to see what that email was. And again, for our email tracking, you don't have to click a button, copy and paste, anything like that. This is happening automatically in the background. All inbound outbound emails to existing records are passively tracked. Really helpful tool where you send someone an email on your iPhone. You don't want to have to remember to track that. It's going to save automatically. And the next thing here I want to walk through is how you can link a candidate to a client contact. We know a lot of times someone who you're also maybe helping with an active search can be somebody that you're getting roles for. Through Bullhorn, you can link client contacts and candidates easily. And then through this recent notes card, whenever I save a note on the candidate profile or the client contact profile, it's going to save on both records, and I'll be able to reference that right away through this binocular view. Client contacts are orange within the system, so I can see right away this note that I had added previously about a few management roles coming up is in reference to Kevin's hiring profile. Whereas if I hit the binocular view for an older note, I can see, okay, this is in reference to Kevin's candidate profile. And again, whenever I add a note on one of these records, it will save automatically on that linked record. So again, this is what an individual candidate record is going to look like. I do want to jump into next to the actual candidate list, so we can, again, email, submit Kevin to a job, send him to a client. But maybe we also want to run a search on our internal candidate list. We have been bringing people in LinkedIn, referrals. Let's run a search there, see if we can find some folks for this VP of Finance job that we had walked through previously. Now, the candidate list, this should look pretty familiar. Same idea as the job list, just with different information, of course, where we can move these columns around and we can pick and choose what columns we have showing front and center. These columns are filterable, so I could just come in and search by title and address. A few of the ones I like to highlight here that I like to have showing are submissions and send out. So I'm looking up candidates now that I've shortlisted for jobs before, candidates that I've sent to a client before. If I've sent them to a client, probably a good place to start on a search. I sent them there for a reason. I should have some background. But again, you're able to pick and choose what columns or what fields you have showing here. Now, if we do want to run a keyword search, that's going to happen right here in this search bar. When I open this up, you can see a few keywords that I plugged in before we hopped on the webinar today, but you can start this from scratch. And then you can also add additional criteria for any of the fields within Bullhorn. You can also search off of actual note types. So we have out-of-the-box note types from pre-screen, outbound call. We also allow you to create your own note actions. Maybe you have something that's unique just to your team, the first 5 questions that you ask someone. You can save that as a note action type and then have that be searchable. You also are able to run Boolean strings in the system. This is just a keyword search again, but you could run a Boolean string and if not or but, any type of search you are able to run. Now on top of that, you can also save any search by going to favorites and then save this search. Now if you're operating with similar roles, COO roles, VP roles in certain industries, you could save a search and then just tweak it from there. Maybe I ran a search for a VP of sales in Dallas, and then the next week I had one come up for Los Angeles. All I'd have to do is go to my save search for VPs of sales. You can see I have a wide variety of them, from everything from accountants to registered nurses. And then from there, go ahead and tweak that search. I just switch up the location in that instance. Maybe I want to run a radius search this time. Now from this list view, we're also able to take mass action. And I can see, why did these people get looked up? Like I ran this keyword search with this location. Why did Haley Sweet, why is she showing front and center? This binocular tool right here allows you to open up a window into the candidate's profile. So I can see here the notes on Haley. I can see her resume and those keywords that were highlighted. And I can even take action right from within here by adding notes, adding tasks, adding submission. Same thing as if I was on that individual candidate record. I have that same functionality right here. And you can toggle between this binocular view, not having to open up a million different records. It's all going to happen right here on this candidate list. I can see who Mac is, who these notes are. Now this keyword search is running a search based off of the resume body as well as the notes. So my colleague Mike Walsh had added great job candidate. Back in February, I'd run a Java keyword search and that word is highlighted. And then we can also take mass action from here. It's not just individual reach outs we can do. Through Bullhorn, you could email up to 500 people on the time. And now this isn't just on the candidate side. This same functionality applies to the client contact side or to the lead side. So if I want to send out some marketing emails, you're able to do that from within Bullhorn. If I did want to send a mass email, I just have to select who I want to select, and this can be everyone or just a few people. And then when I go to selected, email candidates, it's going to drive us right to our message template screen where we can personalize these emails a little bit further. So I want to set it up so it's going to say, hi Tori, hi Lindsay, hi Antonio. I can save templates, and again, it's always going to come from your business email as a personalized email. If I wanted to tag people in mass to that earlier role, the VP of Finance, I can again select these candidates and then add submission. And then they'll be shortlisted for that job for further review before I actually send to the client. So that's how you're able to source and find candidates, whether it's externally by posting out jobs through LinkedIn, through your email, or you have this great strong candidate database. That's maybe the first area where I want to start a search. And then start tagging candidates onto new jobs in this first initial stage right here, or sending direct to the client. And you can see as people are getting added, these workflow steps are getting highlighted. If I clicked into this actual job workflow, you can see again the out-of-the-box steps that we have. And you're able to toggle between current and all here. Current, pretty straightforward. This is where each candidate is currently within the job. All is the historical view. So right now, I currently have 8 people at internal submission, 4 people in front of the client, 3 people at interviewing, 3 people rejected. Within these actual workflow steps, we also have various statuses. So if I wanted to move this candidate from internally submitted to interested, so they actually got back to us, let us know, hey, I am actively looking for a new role, I can move this candidate to interested right away, and they'll be updated in Bullhorn. Our next steps there, actually, once they're interested, we've reviewed them as sending to the client. You could have those client submissions be sent right from within this job funnel. And again, since you can brand resumes, you can always make sure you can pick and choose what documents actually you get in front of the client interviewing. So you're able to set up calendar invites right within Bullhorn. I do want to walk through actually one of these steps. So if I did want to send Greg and Nina, or maybe Haley and James to the client in this instance, all I have to do is select them, go to move, and then client submission, and we can compose this email right from within Bullhorn. Since on job records, we're always prompted to attach a client and a hiring authority at that client to the job, they'll be automatically pulled. And then I can pick and choose what documents I'm actually sending. In this instance, I'm going to pick her standard resume, which is that branded one, and James's branded resume. Then when I go to compose that email, the hiring authority over there is already attached. And I can send that right from within Bullhorn. And I can even craft that message template right within Bullhorn. When I move the candidate to the next stage, I'll be updated not just on this job record, but also on the candidate profile and on the client's profile. So a few different areas of that job's updating. And now we can see on March 19th, I have these 2 new candidates sent by Rob Gogan. They're now in front of the client for review. That same binocular functionality exists within these job workflows. So if you ever did need to remember, hey, why did I shortlist Stephanie for this role? This binocular view is going to live here as well, and you can open up a window into Stephanie's candidate profile. The last few steps, rejected and confirmed. I like to mention rejected just because people can be rejected for any reason. And when we do move someone to rejected, we're always prompted to add a note here. Maybe I had done all this work with a candidate and we got to the final stages and it turns out they didn't want to relocate. I want to move them to rejected and add that in as a note onto their record. So next time I speak with them, I'm going to know right away, okay, why didn't they get this previous role? Now, all this activity, all of this actions that you're doing right within Bullhorn, this is just on one individual job right here. Through our system, you can also look at this in a much larger overview. Going back to our main menu, we have this submissions icon. And what this is all that activity that I just did from internally shortlisting candidates to placement in a new list view. So right here, I'm looking at all the different statuses for all the candidates for all the different searches I have open right now. And I can choose to focus on any particular status. So maybe earlier, I had a few jobs that were worth interviewing. I can also see who do I have that's at the final, third, and second interviews. These are the people that are getting the closest to actually getting placed onto various roles. I want to see who they are right away. So I have a few people on final interview. This is who they're with, what client it is. I could even start my day here and think, hey, these are the few people that I want to make sure I'm following up with. I want to make sure I'm getting this over the line. And I won't go too in depth here, but the same exact thing with this list view where you can move the columns around and you can filter by them. So any way you want to see this data, you're going to be able to do it by user, by client company, or by status. We do, within our main menu, also have a hires or a placements list. So at any time, you can go into that list view and see who have we actually placed on various roles this year, where have we placed them. And that finishes up our recruiting workflow, and I do want to switch next onto the actual client side of things. We've been talking about how we can get jobs into the system. We can post out jobs, search externally, start attaching them to roles. And all this activity is also being kept track of on the client side. So this here is Brightcove. This is that client that we had the VP of Finance role with that we are finding candidates for, moving them down the job pipeline. From Brightcove's perspective, though, the clients also have their own workflow. So I can see at any time everyone who I've ever had in front of the client, everyone I've ever shortlisted for jobs with the client, all the open jobs I've ever also had with the client. And now that passive email tracking isn't just happening, like I mentioned, on the candidate side. It's also going to be happening for your clients and when your team is interacting with the people that you're doing business with. Through our tool called Pulse, which I know it's a little bit corny, but is going to give you a pulse into how you're doing with your certain clients. This is where that email tracking is going to live. So I can see I have a few interactions with various hiring authorities here. And if my other colleagues were also interacting with Brightcove, I'd be able to see that. And this isn't just for that automatic email tracking. If I keep scrolling down here, I'm even able to see who my most responsive contacts are. So I can see Sean Macaluso, this is my main hiring manager at Brightcove. He likes to respond to email at Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If we were looking at that submission list and I was looking up, okay, who are the people I have in the final interviewing stages with Brightcove and with Sean Macaluso, I could hop on over to the client profile and know, okay, I'm going to follow up with Sean about this role right here because I know, and I'm going to give him a call on Tuesday at 1 because I know this is when he likes to respond to emails or to calls. This will be a very helpful tool if you ever do bring on new heads or you have someone who unfortunately leaves. They'll be able to come in and see that previous activity history and know right away what's going on with clients and with candidates through that automatic email tracking. Now in client records, we're also going to have the notes section and then the client contacts. The client contacts, these can be those linked candidates. So I will know if I place someone in a COO role, I'll be able to see they're a former candidate and have both those profiles and able to reference notes for both those profiles. This will be a great tool for business development. If I want to do some outbound prospecting, I want to build on my book of business a little bit, I can see who the people I have attached to Brightcove, what their roles are, what their information is, when's the last time I reached out to them. I gave someone a cold email 6 months ago, I can go and see and reference that email. Just making sure you're never caught unaware of what's going on. And we do have list views for client contacts and companies, just like the candidates, jobs, and other list views that I went through today. And now to finish things up, I want to go back to the dashboard. So we've gone through that recruiting workflow, and now on the client side, in our dashboard, we also are going to have metrics that I kept track of on that client side, and as an overall how the business is doing. You can set activity goals for people on the team to keep track of those activities. Additional card is response times. How long is it taking me to shortlist candidates for a client, to actually get candidates in front of a client and fill some of these searches? We even have a success rates card where you can see, okay, what's the number of starts actually coming from my client submissions? So you're going to get insight into not just what do I want to do for the day, but also how the business is doing as a whole and as a complete overview. Awesome. And where I'm going to toggle to next is bring it back to the initial slide deck. I appreciate everyone walking through Bullhorn for me today. And I know one of the most important things everyone's looking forward to is what is this actual official partnership? What comes with this in terms of pricing? And this is the pricing that we have set up between Sanford Rose and Brightcove. So for Bullhorn's Enterprise Edition, what we walked through today, Bullhorn's being offered at $116 a user a month. We do have a few different options for migration. This would be something that on a one-off basis that you dive into deeper with a specific account executive. This can be ranging from anything, something quick, or people who want to do full data migrations. I know Matt had also worked out a few different agreements through one of our implementation arms, Newberry, and then between getting teams up and running on Bullhorn. And then any of this information you are going to be able to dive into deeper with a specific account executive. Cool, and now we're going to look at some of the questions that we have. Take a look at those.
Thanks, Rob. So my name's Emily. I am on the product marketing team here at Bullhorn, and I'll help answer some of the questions. I might tee them back over to Rob, depending on if he's better fit to answer the question. But the first one we got in here is actually a question about our LinkedIn integration. So Rob briefly mentioned that we do have an integration with LinkedIn, and the question here was, is there an extra fee associated for the LinkedIn integration? And I will say you do need to have at least one seat on LinkedIn Recruiter, so there is a fee associated with that. But the good news is on the Bullhorn side, there is no fee associated with the LinkedIn integration. So as long as you do have at least one seat on the LinkedIn Recruiter side, you are able to get the LinkedIn integration on Bullhorn for no additional fee. Next question we got is, if I schedule an appointment in Outlook or in Bullhorn, will they sync? So this is a little bit of a tough question to answer right here on the webinar. It's requires a little bit more investigation into your current setup with Bullhorn or the setup that you choose to have when you do go live with Bullhorn. But at the end of the day, depending on how you schedule an appointment, depending on if you schedule it in Outlook or in Bullhorn, there is a way to sync the systems. It won't happen automatically. There's a little work that we need to do on the back end, but the end goal is, yes, we are able to closely integrate those calendars. There's a little bit more work. It's not an automatic sync, but at the end of the day, there is a way that we are able to tie those systems together. Another question we got here is asking, does Bullhorn have any capabilities that help onboard candidates? So onboarding is actually something that we have thought a lot about here at Bullhorn, and we've actually recently released a brand new onboarding solution that helps manage all of the documents that your candidates fill out throughout the both pre-hire and the onboarding process, and manages all of that on a digital platform within Bullhorn. So yes, we do offer a solution for onboarding candidates, and if you have more questions about what that looks like and what that entails, we are more than happy to set up a demo for our onboarding solution.
Yeah, and one quick thing I do want to jump in with
is,
in terms of interview scheduling,
is right in our main menu, we have a planner. This is where we can have an internal view of all those appointments, all those interviews we do have set up. I didn't cover this today just for time purposes, but in our main menu, we do have a planner where every time I do schedule an interview, I can see who it's with. So I can see, okay, on March 19th, I have one interview, the interview with Kevin Clark and Sean Macaluso at Bright Cove. So you will have access to this internal planner that can be sorted by month, week, day, by user, to get an actual insight into, what are some of those appointments I've set up.
Is there any more questions?
Yep, awesome, Rob. Thanks for showing that to us. Another question here is similar to the first one, or one of the other questions we answered. Are there any back office capabilities? So back office is definitely an involved process. I'm taking this question to mean things around time and expense and invoicing and maybe commissions. Bullhorn does have offerings for these solutions. So if you do have questions on back office capabilities, like I mentioned, time and expense collection or commissions workflow, we do have solutions for that, and we can definitely set up a time to speak more specifically about what you might be looking for, in a back office solution. Let's see what other questions we have. So we have a question about any email marketing services included as part of Bullhorn. So we do have a great marketplace partner solution that incorporates a lot of other products in the staffing and recruiting industry. And a lot of our customers are using integrations with email marketing services. So it won't be necessarily within the Bullhorn ATS that Rob just showed, but we have a really close integration with a lot of awesome email marketing services. So can definitely help out with that. Definitely ask more questions about that after the webinar, and we can give you definitely more details on that. Let's see, if anybody has any other questions, definitely add them in now. Let's see what other questions we have. Question about, can you bring in candidates from job boards? So I'm sure a lot of the work you guys are doing is spent on job boards, and we are able to bring candidate records in from job boards to the ATS, depending on which job board you might be using. There's a few different solutions depending on the job board. If you are using job boards such as Monster or Dice or Career Builder, we have a great tool called Sidebar that allows you to really easily parse those resumes into your ATS and then actually take actions right from the job board. So let's say you want to add a candidate in from Monster and you also want to add a note saying, oh, this candidate would be great for this position. You're actually able to do that all from within the job board. If you are working more strictly with LinkedIn, we do have our LinkedIn integration. So that would be your best solution for closely linking those two. But on the job board side, we do have solutions for parsing candidates in from there as well. let's see, a couple other questions. Yep, we will definitely follow up about the email marketing integration, so make sure to give you more details on that. And then also a question for a lot of LinkedIn questions, so I'm glad to see everyone is excited about the LinkedIn integration. And then a question potentially for you, Rob. We have a question that's asking, are the individual users billed monthly or annually? Can you just give more information on how the pricing structure is set up?
Yeah, so through Bullhorn, you're billed by per user per month. So 116 a user a month. You can have our agreements are 12 months long, but the billing of the users is on a monthly basis.
Okay, I think that is about all the questions that we have in here. If you asked a question and we didn't get to it, definitely apologize that we may not have gotten to it, but we will follow up with you after the webinar directly to answer any questions that we may not have gotten to, but want to be mindful of everybody's time today. So thank you all so much for joining. I know I can speak on behalf of myself and Rob and Matt that we all very much appreciate your time, and we will send out the recording to everybody that's here today. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out and let us know. So have a great rest of your day.
Thank you guys. I appreciate all your time.